On my side, in Australia, our regulator is having, the requirement on our vendor with oversight, and also making sure that although some activity may be, outsourced, but still the accountability and also our responsibility lies on our bank. And therefore, we need to make sure that, okay, how many for party or fifth party are behind. So regulatory risk, I think there's no doubt it will only be higher and higher. That's what I see. And associated with regulatory risk, I think another risk that we are talking about is reputational risk. Reputational comes, especially I think nowadays, um, ESG concern have becoming a major source of the reputation of a company. So I would say nowadays people will have some judgment or see how company is dealing with the ESG topics. To put it in a very simple context, for example, when your company or your bank receive a complaint, if you do not manage appropriately or timely, this will either trigger the reputational risk exposure. On the other hand, I think the risk of social media, because this exposure will amplify the level of reputation risk as well, and affect and leading to the negative, the image of the company. This is something that I think the first three risks I think we need to conscious of, and then the other ones, the third party, as I mentioned, the supply chain risk. We need to make sure that okay, in a operational disruption, we need to have a plan mitigate our impact. And lastly, I think AI risk. I do not see this as emerging. It's happening, especially some company when they adopt AI implementations in their BAU processing. We need to make sure that the data privacy is a concern, and especially make sure that AI is cater the ethical concern during the decision making as well. So just say sorry a bit of time, just try to bring the contents where we're facing. In fact, I would say that our nowadays the risk landscape is getting more and more complicated. Okay, what is the solutions? If we are getting a very complex landscape and the exposure is very dynamic, I think we need to go back to our basic. We need a effective governance. What does it mean? It's simple to me. We need to establish framework where we have the leadership commitment. Associated with the robust governance, we see the strong commitment from our organization leadership. They support the risk culture, risk culture elements. And secondly, I think we need to have a clear and definable and responsibility across the lines. What I'm saying is, let's say if we are talking about the field of defense, every line has its own responsibility. First line, the business line who doing the process, they should have the accountability to manage the risk. Second line is like us as a risk professional, need to make sure the framework is working. We have a timely information, and even we need to challenge what first line is giving the context to the management in terms of the risk information. And even we need to, and also I think we need to what first line is giving systematic contact, continuous monitoring and improvement to see what may be something we can do better when compared with the existing governance, because the things change fast, especially I think nowadays digitalizations. When the new product launch, new technology happen, then all the things we need to see or share ourselves how to expand our scope or capability of monitoring. I think this is the fundamental of the effective governance. And here, then I think what are they exactly? To me, is pretty straightforward. We need to have a risk assessment of some new activities and new processes to see what we can do in terms of mitigating the risk. It could be the likelihood of the risk and also severity of the risk of the risk event, and also policy and procedure. Is a must because when there's a process established, which will occur, but even we mitigate it with a some introduction of internal control or processing. But when things change or even as simple as this, people turnover, these policy need to be a guide, someone who can take as a, I don't say Bible, but where they can have it to have the key menu in some urgent and very emergency situation. And that one is about the incident response and planning. Uh, what to report, when to report, and then what we need in order to, I would say, the proper SLA is needed when we do the incident. Because if the incident is not done properly, on a timely manner, it could be trigger not just the organization's impact, but also it could be in a more exposed way in terms of reputational risk. And another element I think stakeholder management is very important. We need to keep communicating to build a trust and ensure the alignment in our business environment. So, therefore, I think to reinforcing our risk culture, it is a must. So on the right hand side, this is the risk culture, I would say, model introduced by the Institutional of Risk Management. I recommend that this is worth to be have a look because from there's a mature model to guide everyone following systematically how we should rate our maturity of our risk culture. You and I may not be the best score at the beginning, but still you can see that there will be some key element we can start from scratch and build systematically one by one. So today, my idea is covered from there. I'm going to share some of the system practice I've been using and even I am adopting from the past. I would like to share with you. Okay, later on in this meeting, if anyone want the access of this documentation, I'm happy to share. All right. All right. I think one of the key elements of this culture, I think, is we need to have the support from our city management, where we have cultivated with leadership culture, which is setting the tone from the top. Very simple. I think we need to have the key expectation from senior management to ensure that, okay, the organization, how do they define and understand their responsibility in managing this? And secondly, is our leaders need to, lead by example. How do they treat risk? How do they take with it? Instead of having the brain of ping pong culture, or how do they treat it? Do they encouraging the business to take risk as a positive manner? I think this is very useful. And secondly is how we communicate with information. I think this has to be, ensure the message around the risk management are constantly deliver with the senior management actively and visibly. How we are taking the risk and mitigation in a systematic approach. Also, I think how we need to do is the way we respond to bad news, we need to focusing is transparency. Remain transparent means openness, allow the company value, especially if we have this risk taking or whether it's consistent with our company missions or ethical standards. And also, I think in terms of recognize the risk insight, I think we need to, we want or also encourage employee. In fact, they are contributing as part of the risk management framework. So it's crucial to recognize the risk insight among the company. This slide is about the 4 steps to define the accountability. That's what I said in the first few slide. How can we do it? So to me, there are 4 steps. I don't go through in detail for conscious time. You can see that the major component would be align the accountabilities and also embed in roles. It means that we want the manager or first line, the business line, to embed the risk management role, which is one of the core responsibility as a leader as well. Active risk function on the right. So basically, I think as I said, risk management, like as a professional, we are not the only one to manage risk. In fact, we should expect the first line, which is the business line, should be active risk function, enable it. And last, I think we need to make sure we have a transparent risk information which can be communicated timely, meaningful, enable leader to have a more holistic picture to make decision. So this 4 component is the key thing. It's the same thing. I think what we need to do, I think the risk resource is important, especially I think our role as risk management, some key, I would say, takeaway we need to be conscious of. First is about the define our remit. We need to clearly define what we can cover, what our scope, what we can not cover, what we can cover. It depends on the priority of the company. For example, it should be aligned with the structure plan of the company, strategic planning of the company. And secondly, I think the collaborative relationship is a fundamental. To me, it's even a must. The stronger relationship with stakeholder among the organization, you will have more first-hand information, more collaborative support you can get from the business, because we are risk professionals, but we may not be the assembly view of that particular process or activity. So therefore, I think the collaborative relationship is very important. And the third one is our companions building. I think the lifelong learning is very important. We know what we know, but again, as I said, the technology, the world changing so fast. We need to keep pace of our I would say capability and skill set to keep pace of the ongoing changes. Otherwise, we may have some blind point. And also, I think the last point on the right is we need to stay alert and challenging our status quo as always. Yeah. Here, I think this is for the leaders, leadership, especially in a company. I think there's a few key takeaway how we should have the enhance the risk awareness. The quick win is some program we can initiate, we can think of. Let's say create a structure which can be and where they can, act as a 1.5 a risk control line to have the business to oversight the risk. And also, I think leadership support is very important. And finally, I think the structure program, like the regular risk training to our leadership level is very important. They need to stay awake and also get informed what's around them in terms of the risk profile of the company. I don't go for much of detail. This is just about it's very important. The key takeaway is we need to understand what is our risk appetite of a company, because every organization has different appetite to respond to the risk. If there's some certain area there's not risk appetite, I would recommend to back to the basic, set up the risk appetite. On my occasion, I have some experience that we have operation risk appetite, reputation risk appetite, and give cyber risk appetite. Every company should have this risk appetite, especially when it comes to the decision making. We need to make sure that we are not breaching our risk appetite all the time. If there's exception, seek the board approval. But this should be oversight systematically. And this is my key takeaway of this. I think for conscious of time, I'm going to share one of the CRO case study, which is for the recent Silicon Valley Bank failure. So basically, what's happened is, as I said, that the risk capital is very important. And this example exactly is explained by the failure of their risk culture and even the risk governance. As a result, we can see that this bank is collapsed and filed for bankruptcy recently. So I guess many of you have heard this bank before, and in fact, for their failure, it's not very it's complicated. So first of all, in terms of the deep dive one, we can see that in fact this bank highly concentrate on the customer base, primarily serving the technology, the venture capital sector, and their lack of diversifications and making the bank vulnerable to the shock with those industry where I think they have made use of their significant portion of the deposit in the long term, low yield government bond security. So you imagine when interest rate rising, the market of long term bonds declined, creating a significant unrealized losses in the balance sheet. So first of all, is the concentration risk of their business. And second, it's about the diversification effect of failure. And also in terms of the monitoring, I don't think they have identified the asset liability mismatch, even in their first line or second line. This is about the inadequate risk management. We can see that the framework doesn't help them to prevent or identify the concentration risk of the business. Moving to the deep dive two. So I think the regulatory oversight deregulation back in 2018, because of the deregulation, at some point, environment provided less approach to the risk management oversight. So this is no good because they have a less regulatory requirement, making them to less prepare of their balance sheet perspective. And last but not least, I think the point 5 under the tab 2, we can see that the overall bank, they are led off the effective communication and with communication being transparent is a total failure, starting from the line 1, line 2, and even the senior management of this bank is not well aware of what they're doing. So this lesson learned, I think we can, fix it from the fundamental risk culture, accountability, this sort of things. So the quick win, I think, particular for the SVB bank, I think the quick win would be the have a documentation standard. What would be the prototype of the effective reporting? They should have it. The timeline is very important, and also they need to define the reporting channel to the relevant people with the prompt and time decision making. And last but not least, I think the escalation prototype is needed and reviewed regularly due to its high impact risk and vulnerabilities. Let's make just a general idea of, okay, let's say we talk about data security management. What are some basic things? To me, it's simple. Data encryptions, access control, BCM, and continuous employee training. Get them alert what's happening from phishing, email, etc., etc. What's next? I think we need to, after this, presentation or after the training today, I hope as a risk professional, we can still continuously have a strong mindset for collaborative approach. And also, I think we should, spend some time in data, because sometimes data is more, in objective way to form our risk opinion. Let's say the trend, the pattern. So to me, I think data is for every risk professional should, further develop the skill set and also challenge our cynical based on our innovative thinking or our problem statement of organizations. I think that's been much of my side. I yep. I pass back the ball to you, Mike.
Thank you very much, Jerry. I think that was a very sort of comprehensive introduction to some of the main challenges we're going to face in terms of risk management and conflict and cybersecurity, et cetera, moving forward. And you kind of framed everything nicely to continue on with this discussion with our other keynote speakers.
Indeed. Yep.
So it's an excellent introduction to this. Before we proceed, I'm not sure if Dr. Femi Mosaku Johnson is here with us. I don't see him listed on the on the attendees. But before actually proceeding to the next keynote speaker, I think there's going to be a short video break, which I actually skipped earlier. So you can meet the Morgans, the organizers behind this event. So they're going to play a short video, and then we'll proceed with our next keynote speaker, whoever that person is, whoever it is here. So it might not be Dr. Femi Mosaku Johnson, it might not be Lokesh Joshi. We might just jump straight into Professor Anna Lishova. So if the video can play, and then we'll continue, please. Thank you.
Please welcome to Morgans.
Give them a second to load the video, and we will take a look at that and proceed. This should serve as a good sort of introduction to everyone attending on who the Morgans are.
Services as a top-tier consulting firm while being
if you could go back, it's muted.
Services include regulatory governance, risk compliance, GRC, and financial crime prevention advisory, background check, vetting and screening, financial accounting, audit and tax advisory, and lots more. Visit our website at www.morgansconsortium.com or send us an email at enquiries@morgansconsortium.com. We help businesses achieve their goals by providing them with quality services.
Excellent. Thank you very much for that. Also, just to mention a few admin issues, we will have a panel discussion towards the end of the session. So if you have any questions for any of our speakers, make sure you write those questions down. And then you can post them on the chat, and we will cover basically any questions that the attendees might have for any of our panelists. We will cover those during the panel session towards the end of this event. So with that out of the way, Dr. Femi Mosaku Johnson, is he here? Can someone confirm whether he will be here, etc.? If not, I will move on. Or Lokesh Joshi, MD from Crocape. If they're not going to be here, or if they're running late, if anything happened, I will proceed with our fourth keynote speaker. So I'd like to welcome Professor Anna Lishova. She's accounting analysis and audit professor at Kazan Federal University. She will be presenting on forecasting companies' bankruptcy as a tool for assessing the risk of fraudulence, a case study of Russian companies engaged in construction of hydraulic structure. I know she had an issue with the mute, so if someone can unmute her, and then basically I will hand things over to Dr. Lishova.
Good afternoon once more. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we hear you fine.
Great, thank you. And I would like to ask the possibility to share the screen in order to launch the presentation, because now this option is blocked for me.
I think someone's sharing your presentation for you at this stage, so that should work. There you go. Go ahead, Anna. Floor is all yours.
Okay. Well, I would like to present the results of our research conducted at our Department of Accounting Analysis and Audit. And as you see, the topic of today's meeting is closely related with fraudulence and some other activities related to the increasing awareness in companies' internal control systems. So I decided to choose this topic for presentation. So in modern conditions, predicting the probability of companies' bankruptcy is the most vital stage of economic analysis, which allows to assess both corporate efficiency and possible risk probability of fraudulence in financial statements, because as you can see, any financial distress may provide additional motivation for managers to work with figures in order to skip not very good current economic picture and to reflect a much more financial situation that it could be in reality. So today economists have invested enormous efforts into developing this area of analysis. On the next slide, you may see some most popular models as Altman Z-score, Fulmer. If it is possible, it would be great to switch the slide, because I can't do it. Yes, thank you. So lots of models were already developed, such as Altman Z-score, Fulmer, Toffler models, many others, and they are very well known and also already applied in practice. So the drawback of traditional models is the fact that they are primarily based on classical equipment, a classical equation of multiple linear regression. So the next slide, you can see that we would like to switch from traditional approach to the alternative versions, alternative models in estimating probability of bankruptcy of companies. So logistic regression is a kind of logistic regression where the dependent variable takes only two values, but due to logistic transformation, we obtain the opportunity to predict continuous variable with values placed into interval from 0 to 1. So the next slide includes the summary of our research. Firstly, we based a sample of 30 companies engaged in construction of hydraulic systems and structures equipment. 15 companies of this sample are active, so they do not have any significant distresses, problems, and indicators of bankruptcy. Another 15 companies are already bankrupt, so we mixed this sample in order to check the possible model for predicting a probability of bankruptcy. And initial data set was collected based on financial statements of these companies for the 3 years period of reporting period for active companies and 3 years preceding the bankrupt liquidation of other companies. And we use different financial indicators such as non-current assets, current assets, structure of equity, net sales, profit, operating profit, net profit, and so on. So next slide, you can see that financial indicators were calculated based on this initial data. So next slide, it may be presented by, and you can see a list of indicators which were used for further analysis. So they characterize the financial position, financial results, liquidity, financial stability of company. So that's why these list of factors could help us to describe the overall financial prospects of companies in order to estimate possible features of bankruptcy. So then next slide, please. And next. So at the next stage, in order to find the correlation between different indicators, we prepared metrics of paired correlation coefficients, and based on these results, which we selected a list of factors for building a final model. So on the next slide, you can see the parameters of the final model of predicting the probability of bankruptcy for companies engaged in construction of hydraulic structures equipment. And the biggest influence on the probability of bankruptcy has the mobility coefficient and the List one has revenue growth or decline. So it can be noted that all factors selected for this model are used for describing the possibility of companies to operate with assets, whether they have sufficient amount of resources for conducting business activities, especially in long-term perspective, because the probability of bankruptcy may have significant influence on the possibility of company to generate money to operate in a long-term perspective. So we assessed the predictive ability of developed model. On the next slide, you can see results. So the model gave correct predictions in 84% of cases for active companies and 71% of cases for bankrupt companies. By the way, it should be noted that initially we used 40 companies with 3 years period, so that our final sample includes 45 cases of zero probability, means active companies, and 45 cases of probability 1 for bankrupt companies. So in total, the predictive ability of a developed model is estimated at the level of 78%. And we checked the results based on control sample. It also gave us the good result and confirmed that model has the predictive ability. So finally, it can be noted that the results of these research demonstrate that proposed economic model of bankruptcy probability prediction is adequate and has sufficient accuracy, and developed model may be considered as our contribution to the practice of assessing bankruptcy probability and the possible risks of fraudulence in the financial reporting of companies. So it's just our attempt to develop existing analytical tools. So of course, we would continue further research in this topic. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Dr. Lishova, for the presentation. I think presents pretty clearly, I think, the results of your research and how basically bankruptcy has been basically occurring among hydraulic companies and structures in Russia. We will take another short break. There are some promotional videos that are going to be played now, and we'll also give some time for the other two keynote speakers to maybe show up. Otherwise, we'll proceed with Murakinho Animação. So we'll watch a couple of videos and then proceed accordingly. So thank you.
Every successful organization knows that hiring best talent is difficult, and that is where we come in. Leverage on our years of experience and expertise. Let us take the burden off. Every successful organization knows that hiring best talent is difficult, and that is where we come in. Leverage on our years of experience and expertise. Let us take the burden off you for accountancy recruitment, IT recruitment, healthcare recruitment services, contract recruitment, consulting and change management, and lots more. Choose better. Choose Portrek Resourcing. Get in touch today. Visit www.portrek.co.uk or call +234 1700 1770 or +234 915 3414 314. Let us help you solve your recruitment challenge.
Dr. Femi Mosaku Johnson, are you here? Or Lokesh Joshi? It seems like they haven't made it yet. So I will proceed with our fifth keynote speaker, Moraquinho Animação, he's a co-founder of Wimica RMS Technologies. He'll be presenting on safeguarding digital trust, the holistic cyber fraud protection for financial institutions. Moraquinho, the stage is all yours. If you can be unmuted, and please proceed. Looking forward to your presentation. We can't hear you again, Moraquinho, for some reason. Must be an issue with the headphones.
Yeah, can you hear me now?
Yes, now it's working. Perfect, thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'm excited to be here and to have this opportunity to present. As has been said, my name is Moraquinho Animação, co-founder and CEO of Wimica RMS Technologies, and I'll be speaking on safeguarding digital trust, holistic cyber fraud protection for digital financial services. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, so I'm going to start with a teaser. Okay, and just to get us all engaged, what are the world's 3 largest economies by GDP? You can please respond through the Q&A chat, the Q&A channel, the chat, or other channels available. While you're responding, I'll just provide some additional context to help us understand the size and the importance of what we're dealing with at this summit. The size of the digital economy is 15% of global GDP. And the more interesting thing is that it's growing at 2.5 times the physical GDP. Now, bringing it home to Nigeria, the losses incurred for cyber fraud in Nigeria in 2023, as reported by the banks, was 11.3 million, around about 13 billion naira. And from statistics, from history and experience, reported losses are usually at least just 20% or at most 25% of the losses incurred. Okay, so we can estimate that this will probably be in the range of 40 to 50 million dollars. Okay, so that is just to give us some context of what we are dealing with. Okay, so I'm seeing the answers already. Somebody says USA, China, Japan. Okay, so I'd like to get a few more before I go to the next slide where I unveil the answer. What are the world's 3 largest economies by GDP? Okay, so I'll just pause for 30 more seconds and wait for additional responses. You can respond by chat, Q&A. Somebody says USA, China, Germany. Thank you for that, Matthew. 30 seconds more before we unveil. 30 seconds more. USA, China, India. Thank you. 30 seconds more. We have about 15 seconds more. USA, China, EU. Interesting. About 15 seconds more. Okay. Somebody just went all the way and mentioned not just 3 but 5. Okay. So I'll do the unveil now. Can you take us to the next slide? Okay. So these are the largest economies by GDP. I'm sure the first one is not a surprise. The second one is not a surprise. But the third one might be the surprise for all of us here. And that is that cybercrime is bigger. The cybercrime as an economy is bigger than the GDP of Japan, is bigger than the GDP of Germany, is bigger than the GDP of India. If cybercrime were a country, it would be the 3rd largest economy by GDP. I'm sure that's a surprise for many of us. But we need to realize this so that we will understand why it's such a big problem and why it's important that it must be tackled in a manner that's effective, which is not the case right now because it keeps growing. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay. So again, because we are speaking in the context of what we are discussing this morning, I'd like to bring it home to trust, the context of trust. Okay, so one of the things that's been researched and discovered is that countries with higher level of trust typically experience stronger GDP per capita growth. Trust underpins socio-economic interactions, And thriving societies are built on trust. The chart that you can see there shows you some interesting statistics and a graph that shows that some of the most prosperous countries, some of the strongest countries are countries that have high trust, that have strong trust interactions within the economy. When you look towards the left, where you see a lot of the countries that are smuggling, and you can see that Nigeria is not far from that far left, you see that the countries at that lower end are countries that have trust issues, trust deficits. Again, this brings us to one of the things I want to highlight here today, that for us to tackle cyber fraud or cyber crime, we need to look at trust with a bit more detail. Next slide, please. Can we go to the next slide, please? Okay, so basically, when we talk about digital trust is really simply trust applied to the concept of trust applied to the digital realm. And we all will agree that digital trust is essential in today's world. With all the digital transformation, I'm almost sure that there is nobody that does not engage in one form of digital interaction today or the other. It has entered into every area of our lives, whether it's your financial life, even our social and romantic lives. The digital is embedded in everything we do. And for digital trust is built around interpersonal trust with people, institutional trust, and trust of processes. Unless we have trust around these three elements, people, institutions, and processes, then we will not be able to establish digital trust. I have just shown you the value of trust to GDP. So digital trust is essential to the digital economy. Next slide, please. What are the key elements of digital trust? So there are quite a number of them, but I've highlighted just 6 of them. And I've deliberately arranged it with identity at the top of it, because identity is the central element of digital trust. That's one of the reasons why Nigeria has been involved in a lot of national identity initiatives. Unfortunately, many of them have failed, and this continues to be one of the challenges for the digital economy in Nigeria. Thankfully, one of them has been quite successful, the BVN, and we expect that within the next couple of months or years, we will strengthen that even further. So the identity must be verifiable. Identity must be trustworthy. Identity must be traceable. And all of these other things, security, privacy, integrity, reliability, predictability, must factor into identity. Once the identity cannot be trusted, then you really cannot establish digital trust. And that's very key in establishing digital trust. Next slide, please. So it's good for us to understand the problem of cyber fraud, because I want to bring it home specifically to cyber fraud. And when we understand the problem of cyber fraud, it's only then that we can begin to talk about solutions to that problem. But cyber risk is regarded as the biggest risk faced by society at this point in time. If you check the World Economic Forum and a lot of other global bodies, it's already been established. So why is cyber fraud such a problem? Number one, cyber fraud targets elements of digital trust. And when it targets elements of digital trust, what it does is that it erodes trust in digital financial services, and by extension, hinders socio-economic growth. Cyber fraud is increasing in frequency, sophistication, and severity. In spite of all the budget and amount that has been spent on defending against cyber fraud, it just continues to increase. It's more common, it's getting more sophisticated, and it's getting more severe. And there are many reasons for that, which we can't go into at this point. Cyber fraud is multidimensional, so it's not a unidimensional problem. One of the challenges right now is that the attempt to prevent or to protect against cyber fraud has largely been that unidimensional. So you have different silos, trying to solve the problem in their unidimensional understanding. But cyber fraud is multidimensional, cut across many dimensions of society. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Okay, and based on some of the work we've done in Wimika over the past few years, now you've gone beyond the slide you should go to. Yes, thank you. Based on some of the work we've done, focusing on researching and developing solutions for cyber fraud in emerging markets over the past 3 years, these are some of the things that we have discovered that would form a multi-dimensional approach or multi-dimensional solution to cyber fraud. The first element there is that it must have a preventive end. So you can't just leave things open to cyber criminals to have a free passage. So there must be an element of cyber of prevention. We must be, even though prevention is never 100%, we must introduce some friction into the cyber fraud criminals' processes and techniques, so that they just find it that bit more difficult. And we can do that by advanced cybersecurity tools and technologies, as well as awareness and training. Awareness and training is often overlooked, but there is an element of risk called human risk. And that element of risk needs to be addressed through awareness and training. And irrespective of the kind and type of technology that's put in place, if the people that are handling that technology or using that technology do not have the required amount of awareness or education, then they'll just, it will be ineffective in their hands. So awareness and training is important. Cyber awareness, cyber training is crucial for the preventive elements in the multidimensional approach. Then the second bit of it is reimbursement. And reimbursement is, most organizations don't pay attention to this, especially in emerging markets. Okay, so they spend quite a bit of money on providing prevention, and but if prevention fails, then there is no recourse for the customer. And we're looking at this from the point of view of the customer. So there's no effective redress and consumer protection mechanism. From our own research, we found out that less than 5% of people that are victims of cyber fraud in Nigeria are able to recover their lost funds. Okay, so when somebody has become a victim of cyber fraud, is not interested in technology, is not interested in long stories. His biggest interest at that point is to get what he has lost restored. And this might be a challenge, but it's also a huge opportunity for organizations that will focus on this, because it's one of the key areas where they can build trust and loyalty. Then we move on to recovery. Recovery is slightly different from reimbursement. Recovery actually is not, is when the cyber criminals, when the money that cyber criminals have taken are taken back from them. And for recovery to work, there is a need for speed and cost effectiveness. If there is too much time between when an incident occurs and when recovery starts, most of the time the criminals can escape with their loot. And the other bit of that is that if it's not cost effective, if the cost of pursuing recovery is higher than what is going to be recovered, again, it's not worth it. So there is a need to bring speed and cost effectiveness into recovery, especially in the area of incident attribution and investigation. Recovery leads us to the last element, which is deterrence. Okay, so just imagine this scenario. If most cyber criminals realize that whatever the gains they make from cyber crime, they will not enjoy it at the end of the day, because the government or the government agencies will come after them, they will apprehend them, they will prosecute them, and they will recover or take what they have gained. If the chances of that were high, can you imagine what it will do to the society in terms of deterrence? So there are many potential young people now that are looking up to cyber crime or cyber fraud as a career. Now we need to provide deterrence as a society to prevent a situation where people think they can just get into the space, make money, and go scot-free with their money. So those are the elements that we have identified that we need to work on. And all of these things sit on collaboration. We can't mention collaboration enough. One of the earlier speakers mentioned collaboration within the organization, but collaboration is actually required even beyond the organization. Collaboration between financial institutions, regulators, government, MDAs, technology service providers, cybersecurity entities, and law enforcement agencies. Without collaboration, there is no single organization that can provide holistic protection against cyber fraud. Next slide, please. So we have some further recommendations, again, based on our experience and research over the past 3 years. Now, the first recommendation is there's a need to revise the common approach now and make digital trust a key consideration in designing solutions for digital financial services and financial inclusion. And I just mentioned 4 key points under that. So first thing is you have to, organizations, financial institutions particularly, must proactively assess and identify trust points in the user journey, in the user experience. So they can do this by creating and mapping a trust journey on top of their user journey. Most organizations are familiar with user journeys, but in addition to that user journey, you must map, we recommend that you map a trust journey on top of it. Second highlight under that is organizations must learn to categorize trust points on the trust map in a hierarchy. We can do that by mimicking some of the familiar frameworks, e.g. the risk framework. So you know that in the risk framework, every risk is not on the same hierarchy. There are some risks that are regarded as crucial, there are some that are regarded as high, and all the way like that. We must do the same thing for trust. Highlight number 3 is to anticipate possible breach of trust along the user journey and use that to implement preventive measures and proactively develop trust recovery strategies. Every organization should have trust recovery strategies. And the final highlight there is to provide mitigating strategies and measures that will preserve, reinforce, or promote trust along the journey. Next slide, please. So what do we see in the future? What's the outlook for the future? So we've mentioned a few future trends that we think everybody needs to pay attention to. The first one is emerging technologies. And cyber criminals are early adopters of technologies. They are one of the fastest people to adopt emerging technologies. Unfortunately, most organizations wait for technology to mature a bit. And I understand why. I've worked in a bank. But can we afford not to be early adopters of technologies and solutions when cyber criminals are early adopters? Can we find a model that will allow us to be early adopters without necessarily exposing the organization to risks that are greater than what is prevented? Because we must find a way. Otherwise, the cyber criminals will always be ahead of us if they adopt the technologies earlier than we do. Predictive analytics, use of data and advanced AI and ML, algorithms as artificial intelligence and machine learning to anticipate, detect, and prevent fraud in real time. AI and ML bring unbelievable opportunities for those that defend against cyber fraud. It must be well used. Third pillar there is enhanced collaboration. I've already mentioned collaboration as critical. We must create platforms for real-time information exchange and the sharing of intelligence and resources so that society can establish a unified and more effective front against cyber fraud. And the last bit there is zero trust principle. So there must be a way of continuously monitoring and verifying identity. It's not enough. It no longer can be enough to do a one-off identity check and it's over. Every organization must put in place a way to continuously monitor and verify the identity of someone that's transacting or interacting with their system. And all of this must be built on customer centricity. We are not seeing enough of the customer being put at the center of the trust universe. This is something that must be done. Next slide. So we come to the conclusion of the matter, and I'd like you to know that digital trust can be the biggest hindrance or facilitator of the digital economy and financial inclusion, bigger than technology, bigger than cost. We had a taste of that during the period that Nigeria was changing its currency, and we saw that when trust in the currency broke down, it just nothing else mattered. So digital trust can be the biggest hindrance or facilitator of the digital economy. Financial inclusion cannot be successful without addressing the underlying issue of digital trust. Until digital trust is addressed head on, all the other things that we're doing regarding financial inclusion will not deliver the kind of results we want. A new approach is required to effectively address cyber fraud, focusing more on the user's digital trust journey and the impact of the erosion of trust on financial inclusion. Lastly, it will be a call to action for financial institutions to prioritize digital trust and holistic cyber fraud protection. Thank you, and I enjoy the rest of the program.
Thank you very much, Moraquinho. That's again another very comprehensive sort of look at cybersecurity and what it takes to protect financial institutions in this time where cyber fraud is running rampant, and the challenges are greater and greater by the minute. So let's move on to our next keynote speaker. I see that the two gentlemen have joined us, so great that we'll get to hear from them. So next I'd like to invite up on stage our second keynote speaker. He was supposed to be here as our second keynote speaker, Dr. Femi Mosaku Johnson, founding president of Hero Advisory Nigeria. He's going to be speaking us on governance aspect and speaking to the future. So Dr. Mosaku Johnson, if you could join us and please give us a very quick sort of bio introduction as to who you are and what are your interests in this area, experiences, etc., and then go ahead with your presentation. We're looking forward to it. Thank you. I think you're muted, Dr. Femi. Dr. Mosaku Johnson, you here? I think you just dropped off for some reason. Not sure, maybe they're having interconnectivity issues or whatnot. In any case, I know our final keynote speaker is here too, Lokesh Joshi. So I'm going to hand over the stage to him. He is the MD at Grocape Limited, and he'll be talking to us about navigating disruption for a sustainable future, the role of design thinking in organizational preparedness. So Lokesh, the stage is all yours. Again, a quick introduction, a brief introduction as to who you are, what are your experiences in this field, and basically then just jump straight into the presentation. So thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. This is Lokesh Joshi, and I have around 18 years of experience, 16 years in corporate and 2.5 years as entrepreneur. Right now, we are working in climate tech startup, and before that, we were running a management consulting firm. We have done significant research in design thinking implementation in industry, and this particular presentation is one of the research what we did, and we developed a tool how we can predict that our industry is ready for disruptive innovation. So yes, that is a small background about me, and I have to show the presentation. Okay, you have the slide. So we are talking about every startup or industry is afraid of innovation. If we have a stable technology and we see in next few years innovation is coming which can disrupt the market, so there is a risk that you might not be in the market after some time. So we need a tool which will give you a feedback whether you are ready for the change, what is going to come, or you are you will be destroyed completely, or you have to change everything about you. So this tool is all about that. So we can go to the next slide. So what is disruptive innovation? So disruptive innovation says that existing players will lose their complete market share, or the technologies what we have, they might become obsolete, or there might be new challenges from the regulations point of view, or there can be challenges from adopting the new technology. A classic example is electric vehicle, where IC engines, internal combustion engines are going away, and many companies in Europe are now thinking that what they will do in future. Companies which are especially working on components which are critical to internal combustion engines like crankshaft, piston, conrod, block head. So all these companies, they don't have future anymore. Similarly, the companies which are producing lot of greenhouse gas emissions, with the technologies coming into hydrogen, these companies, chemical companies, companies which are producing electricity through coal, so these companies have a bleak future, and they should have done the assessment long back that what they will do when these technologies come into the market. Yes, next slide. So what are the requirements of these tools? So design thinking tells you that you should understand what your customer want to know. You should put your legs into their shoes and understand what they are feeling. So what we understood by working with them is whether they have effective risk management, their shoes and understand. This means we should understand that what are the risks coming in the near future, whether we have sufficient risk management plans, are we ready with those? Organization behavior, what is the nature of the organization? Are they too reserved, or they focus on innovation, or they go with the flow? When the technology will change, we will see what to do. And they want to understand by learning about their organization behavior, which area of their business needs more strengthening, how they can improve that area. The next point which the feedback we got was to understand business model resilience, whether the technologies they are using, will they stand a chance in the disruption which is coming up, how fast the business model can be transformed, that if the disruption comes, if they have 1 year, can they change their business model in 1 year, or they need 5 years because they have a lot of capex involved. So this is what they wanted to know. Leadership adaptability, they want to understand the leadership what they have, are they intelligent enough to handle the changing environment, and are they visionary enough to see what is beyond the disruption, whether their technologies what they are using will survive after the disruption has gone. So similarly, we can see that electric vehicle sales are now coming down, so there is a hope that IC engines may stay, hydrogen may enter IC engines, and all the components may survive. So these are the inputs what we received through design thinking, doing empathy with our clients. Next slide, please. So there are 5 steps in the design thinking approach. That first we empathize with the customers that what they want to do. Next is defining the problem, that what is the exact problem we should define and understand. And this will come from empathy with the client. And then we do idea generation. We ideate along with our team, experts, professors, scientists. Then we develop the prototype strategies, and then we test it. So in this, after empathy with our clients, we understood, we defined the problems that they are facing and the answers they need. Then we did the ideation to design a tool. Then we developed the tool and we did the testing on our clients, who are our management consulting clients, and we already had the assessments, and we implemented the tool and got the feedback. So we decided there will be 5 guiding principles for using the tool, that is scrutiny, bravery, resilience, perseverance, and prosperity. So we distributed these points in our tool to get the feedback and understand about the organization where we are working on. Next slide, please. So in analysis, we identified three categories of companies. First was innovators. These type of companies which come in green zone. So these companies are always ready for disruption. They already have plans, they already have technologies in their kitty. Whenever the disruption comes, they will be already available with new technologies which can go into the market, and they can have their own new sources of profits. So we can categorize Bosch, Siemens, these companies which continuously work on new technologies. They have technologies for electric vehicles as well as IC engines. We can consider Honda, Suzuki. So the next companies are adopters, which go with the flow. That when they feel that new technologies are coming up, they start making new components. They survive, but they don't make the same level of profits which they were making before the innovation hit the market. The final one are the resistance fighters, which are rigid. They put blindfold. They feel that there is no disruption coming, and these are in the biggest risk that they will not survive when the disruption comes. So we developed a survey of 15 questions. It is available on our website, and anyone can fill this, and we collect the data, and we give a complete feedback to the organization whether they are coming into innovators. So if they are coming into innovators, then we feel they don't need help. They already have very good business models. They have very good resilience in their built in them. They already have good plans with them. The next category is adopters. We feel that adopters should take support from professors, management consultants, process consultants, and they should change their organization behavior, business models, and they should bring in new technologies. And resistance fighters, it is very difficult, and these companies are the companies which we see are going out with innovation coming hit to the market. So we did this survey on 6 companies with 20 different top executives, because organization behavior, organization culture is defined by top management. So this culture is always top down. If the top management is visionary, they have new technologies in their kitty, then they will be able to handle the disruptive innovation. So we worked with these 6 companies for 1 to 3 years of time period, and we were already aware that which company is in the innovator category, which company is in the adopter category, and which company is in the resistance fighter category. So we sent the survey to the top management, and we got the feedback. So we can go to the next slide. So we got this feedback across the 6 companies, and we found that only one company is coming into the innovator company. We know that company. They were already working on the new technologies for 3 years, and they are ready to launch those technologies. And they have shifted their complete business model to the new technologies, new products, and they will be making same profit or better profit. They even diversified into different sectors. And one company was in an adopters category, because they were like, now they started working on the disruptive innovation which is in front of them, but they will not make the same level of profits. However, they will survive. And the 4 companies, they came into resistance fighters because they have put blindfold, and they are not ready to change. They say nothing will happen, market will remain same. So this tool is important for organizations so that they can save the investors money, and they don't fall into trap of doing wrong things. And this is one of the root cause why uh, companies do frauds. When they feel that they are going out of the market, they indulge into financial crimes and all those things. So this was the message to all the organizations, that you should have a proper assessment about your organization, that you don't fall into wrong things. Next slide, please. So these are our results, that 6 targeted companies were done. One company was the adopter category, and one company was innovator company. So adopter company started changing their business model. They changed their organization structure. They focused on new projects. They invested more into R&D so that they can speed up their own product development, and they in 1 year of time, they were reaching the innovator category. Whereas the 4 resistance fighters, which were not ready to change, we gave them complete feedback with projections that they will not be able to survive. And but because of their organizational behavior,